So just to see like your experience, how many of you know what is GraphQL? Like just, oh, great, so it's popular. How many of you have worked with GraphQL in some project, like a pet project or produce an app? Oh, good, some experience. How many of you have worked in a production app or platform with GraphQL, something that is like one, two, ooh, three, and four. Okay, nice. Uh, I remember that first time that I met GraphQL, that was here in this conference in Berlin in 2019, that only like 2, 3 people hold their hand about working with GraphQL in production, because it was like 4, 5 years ago and it was not so popular, so we have some progress. Nice. So this is how I had GraphQL, but first I'm going to introduce myself because I'm talking. So I'm Arancha. I'm a software engineer in Honeypot. That is a company that is sponsoring the pizza. So I'm just going to tell you that it's a job-focused platform for developers. So if you are looking for a job as a developer in the European market, like for example Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, Austria, there's some companies over there. And there's my LinkedIn, like the only social network that I use for work because I like to have a private life. So that's all. I'm mostly a frontend, but I have worked as a full stack software. So my first time not meeting GraphQL was in this conference that I just went because it was in Berlin. I never been in Berlin until that moment, so it was an adventure. I fell in love with GraphQL in this conference, but because it was full with amazing people talking about that, and it was incredible. I have been to another meetings, but was not so glad it was. If I had to recommend a talk, I would recommend this one from Tasa Solomon, that is talking about the error handling with GraphQL. That is a whole topic, and it's very interesting and inspiring. And at the end, I also meet Honeypot for the first time. So the company where I'm working now, you can say that means destiny. No, I don't know. And it was the company that was the responsible of creating the GraphQL documentary. So if you want to know more about the origin of GraphQL, the creators, and this kind of stuff, it's like 1, 2 hours, and it's on YouTube. So just take it because it is interesting. Yeah, that's like how I met GraphQL. And now I want to talk about what is GraphQL. So for the ones that already know, this will be like no surprise, but for the other one, it's a query language for the API that was developed by Facebook on 2012. That's long now, and was released open source in 2015. It's very nice. At React, for example, that was also developed by Facebook. But why Facebook put like such an effort on developing GraphQL, and in a specific history or like the creator? That was because in 2008, Facebook published his Fear Hub on the iPhones, and 2 years later on Android. And then Facebook realized that it was not as easy as they expected to be, because they just embedded the whole web inside a mobile app. So it was not performance, it was super slow, and nowadays the users were starting to go to Facebook through the mobile app. So they wanted to invest more in the mobile app. And they decided to move to the native development. So that was very nice, but then they face another problem, that is, they have to maintain several endpoints for just fetching a little bit less data than on other screens, for example, for the web. So instead of rendering a whole screen with all your profile picture, your experience, your posts, on the mobile you just want maybe the profile picture and your name. And that's like 2 things to maintain. So it did not scale. And that's how they end up with GraphQL. So let me tell you how GraphQL works. GraphQL, instead of having several endpoints, they just have one that is looks something like this, API GraphQL, and it's a post that will always return a 200 status code, so that could be confusing for you as developers, but it works. And they handle all the operations that you need to do with an API through 3 different types. The queries that you have one example, and recommendations here, and they have like a third kind that is the subscriptions that basically is like working with WebSockets. So just in a pretty way. So it's nice, but not so popular as the queries and recommendations because it's the type that you mostly use in an application. So here you have a query, and this is a way for fetching the first 10 posts, where you can see we are requesting here the name, the ID of the author, the title, and the image. This is very nice. And the nicest thing is that you are requesting it on the front end. So if suddenly your designer tells you, oh, we don't want to display the image anymore, you just have to remove these 3 lines, remove the component rendering the image, and that will be all. You don't need to involve a backend developer in the process. So it's more, the speed has been compressed, it's more flexible for the front-end developers, and it's easier. So it's super nice. And here you have the mutations, where you, for example, want to get a false, you just have to tell the ID, as in REST, but use like more verbal. And these are the errors that could happen, or not. And the same for here. This could be like a put or post REST request, but here in GraphQL it's just like a mutation, and you want to like a post. And you want to then retrieve the likes on this post. So this is like a mutation, like a post, that you also are selecting data. So it's like a post and a guest request together. That's also nice because you're saying like 2 operations, 2 requests instead of 1 step. So yeah. So here's like an schema of how it works. You, as a front-end, prepare like the request, perform the request to this endpoint, to a post. It goes to the backend, that it will be resolved, and the backend is the one deciding, oh, I need to look at the database, or no. At the end, they will just returning the response. If you pay attention here, like the structure is the same as here. You have the title with the same name, the speaker, and the name is inside the speaker. So yeah, it's pretty nice because us as a developers, we can know in advance the format of the response, so the communication is much easier. You don't have to spend minutes or hours typing with the backend. Oh, so we're gonna be in this format. Okay, but now I like it better, like this. Oh, no, easier. And we come here to the main benefit. As I told you, Facebook invented GraphQL because they wanted to improve the efficiency on the requests on the mobile apps. So how they improve it? By improving the query set, that queries in GraphQL, but it's like the HTTP request. And this is the main focus that GraphQL has, the query optimization. So as you have the freedom to select like the fields that you want to request, you also have the freedom to perform several queries in just one. So instead of having the typical REST schema where, for example, for painting a homepage of a football team, you need to to retrieve the players on this team, the teams that they are facing and the matches. And these are going to be like three HTTPS requests. This is three requests that the frontend have to wait in order to be painted. And it's really inefficient because it's also like free access to the database. So GraphQL what does is just simplifying that, hiding it from the front end, and unifying it one request. So for painting this home page, you just will need to wait for one request, and you will be able to select like the views. So if you don't want to see like the flyers, profile picture, and you don't want to download this data because it's super heavy, you just have to unselect the field on the code. You have 6 seconds. So that's super nice. And yeah, that's it, mostly. So now let me talk about other benefits that are also cool. So here, I'm going to show you like a famous interactive in browser IDE that GraphQL use that is mostly like the documentation of your API. So when you install GraphQL on your backend and you expose some models, you are also like exposing the types of these models. So you are exposing, for example, the player model. You are deciding to expose the name of the player, the profile picture, the view date, the whatever. So once you do it, it's already live on this ID that I'm going to show you, and it can be queried by any content developer at any time. So you don't have to waste your time writing some kind of Swagger documentation that will be always updated, that will have like wrong types or things like that, because it's connected with your backend. So it's happening in real time. So let me show you. So here I'm querying the field, and here I have the documentation. So for each field I have a title, the episode ID, the directors, and I'm able to select it. So such documented. This is like a strong point. Also, as you also see, you have here on the parameters the type of the parameter that is being expected. So it's because GraphQL is strongly typed. So it doesn't matter that you're working on the back end without types. For example, if you work with Ruby on Rails, you don't need to use type. And I think that you can't. I'm not an expert for it. But when you expose a model in GraphQL, you have to define what's the type that is going to be returned. So all these capabilities allow us as developers to have very powerful tools in the community, and this is me to address first benefit, the main one, that is here. So GraphQL is standardized. It's available right now. If I'm just watching the GraphQL official web in 24 languages. So you can see here, these are backend languages. You have like the most famous one, JavaScript. You have also SR, C++, Go, PHP, Scala, RAL. You have like every language any language that you probably will be working with. So you can just install the gem, the library, the module, whatever you need, and start using it. And that's because GraphQL is not a program itself, it's a protocol. So the community has taken the time to implement it in every language that they needed. That's so cool because they have done that with the languages. And inside these languages, they have developed tons of libraries just to be able to go more ahead. So now let me explain some of the disadvantages of GraphQL, like most popular one. So first of all, people used to say that GraphQL, like cutting in GraphQL, is hard, and that's true, because as I told you before, they only use one endpoint, so it's not catching the server. And you have to catch it on the client, so you as a developer at Frontend 1 have to do more work. But it will also be positive, because you have an easiest access to this cascade. You use the right tools, so it's advantages, but could be a positive thing also. On the other side is the error management. As I told you, GraphQL, you have to do a field that is called errors, and inside this field on the JSON response, you can put anything you like. You can put a string, an error code, you can put an array of errors, you can put like whatever. And this could be very chaotic. That's cool. But it's just up to your team, your company, yourself to decide how you want to be with that. So it's a point that in some big company could be a big one to take into account, but if you feel confident, you can just give it a try. And the talk that I mentioned at the beginning, the talk from Sasha Solomon, is talking about error management. So I can post it later on the comments of this talk, because it's very inspiring and it's like redefining the concept. So it's also interesting. As you have a lot of flexibility in order to be the queries, sorry, you can also have complex queries. So when I mean complex, is that a front-end developer can be requesting for hundreds of fields that will make your backend just to be like super slow and things like that. So that's a bad thing, but as a developers, it's up to us to put limits and to take care of the security. That is like the next one, the next point. And to limit the number of fields that can be requested, the depth of the fields that can be requested. We also have to take care of the authentication. So if you are planning to do a public API, don't expose your bank account, for example. Be aware of the fields that you're exposing, but it's a matter of be aware and take care, and also have those testing is very important in development. So it's something that can be solved, but it's nice to be aware of that. And last point that is not so easily solved, the style of lot. GraphQL supports strings, numbers, IDs, and plenty of types, but doesn't support files as a type. So if you want to upload a file through a GraphQL mutation, you have to do it like coded in base 64, because in other you can do it like embedded form as a form data or in data. So it would be strict. You can also just make like a row post, and this will be okay, because you don't need to optimize that. This is something that is going to take time, so no help. So now I'm going to talk about my real experience with GraphQL. I'm going to talk about 3 applications that I have worked with that are in production. Some of them have been deployed like around the whole world, including China. That is tricky, but it doesn't matter. It's not related with GraphQL, so I'm not going to involve that. And I want to talk like the pros, the cons, how we structure the whole application, and what have I learned from that. So first application. Here's what I'm like summing up the architecture. First of all, I want to put some context here. We decided to try GraphQL because we mainly have in the application 3 models, and one of them was being like used around the whole application in more than 10 different ways. So in one screen, they were just requesting the ID and the name. In another one, like the complete details of the models. In another one, just partially. So it was calm for GraphQL, because you don't want to maintain 10 different endpoints. You don't want to maintain like the response of one model. and that's what we tried. So we installed GraphQL on our Java backend, and but it was not tested, so but it was in production, so you are the tester. And yes, some things went wrong, but you can learn from that. And on the front end, we were using React with TypeScript, and we decided to give it a very popular library called Apollo. That is like the first one that you will see on internet for waiting for anything related with GraphQL. That was very cool. The documentation is also very cool. It's very extended, and I tried that like 2-3 years ago. So probably some of the cons that I'm going to tell you, probably they will be solved by now or not. I don't check it, so just be aware. Here, a fun thing about this is that I mentioned that GraphQL is strongly typed, so you can have plenty of tools as a developer. But we decided to don't use them and just write all the types that the API generate manually by yourself. So on one screen we have like the GraphQL ID and another one or code, and we're like, oh yeah, the type team have an ID that is an string and a name that is another string. Okay, we're going to write it. And that was not okay because we end up with inconsistent and outdated types. And that was very painful, and we ended up like the backends and the front-end developers in this company telling us, oh, we have to do a meeting every time that we want to add a new endpoint, well, a new query. We have to design it very well. We can change it like so much, so it was not efficient. Another con that we find is the error management, and that was because we didn't test the backend, the frontend, and also that was because our team was very small and junior, like 3 developers for a whole production application used by thousands of users in real time, so not good. And that caused problems with error management because we wanted to ship features very fast without even testing them. So we didn't care about the error management. We doesn't spend time saying, okay, I'm going to return this kind of entity, or it's going to be a call, like every mutation return a different stuff, whatever you feel like this day. So not good. And the cons about Apollo is that it was difficult to manage the cache with Apollo. I don't know if they have improved it right now, but on the time that I use it, you have to iterate through a tons of attributes and keys, and was not very, very intuitive. So maybe they have improved it. I don't know, but I didn't like it because as a front-end, you want to go sometimes ahead, and you want maybe to do some kind of optimistic UI. So you expect the query the mutation to resolve fast and okay, and you want to paint the result on the screen. You do that through the cache. But if it's difficult to manage the cache, you are not going to do that. So that's trade-off. Yeah, that's it for the first application. So I took notes, and on the second application, I learned from that. So I made some changes. Well, me and my team, because this time I worked on an amazing team, that was full of senior people that communicate very well, with tons of experience, and it was really nice. And also like our boss, Elias, that released up even at out here, is a very good boss. So he always encouraged us to test new technologies, but in a safe way. So that's why we tried GraphQL. We tried this time with Ruby on Rails backend. So here you see you have one technology on the backend, another time Java, so plenty of possibilities. And on the front end we have again React with TypeScript, but this time we have like the products were tested. So that's amazing. Every time that you want to try a new technology, you need to have this ready because you are going to break anything, like everything, like for sure. So we took the time to reconsider the library that we wanted to use to fed the data through GraphQL, and we decided to give it a try to BigQuery. That is not as popular as Apollo because it's created by a random developer, and Apollo is, I believe, belongs to a big company, so it's not like the same amount of money put on marketing. This library, I totally recommend it. If you're wanting to try a new library just to manage the cache in a more efficient way, you have to try BigQuery because it doesn't only work with GraphQL, it also works with REST, so you can have both worlds. And documentation is also, yeah, one problem solved, the cache. Another problem, the types. So as the community has developed like tons of tools, we just give it a look and find this library, GraphQL, that auto-generate the types from the backend. So we just like make a meeting, a mock programming meeting for the developers, the backend, the front end ones, and I start taking a look and end up with a script that was in fact a GitHub action. So every time that anything changes on the GraphQL schema on the backend, we run the script automatically, and it opens a pull request on the frontend repository for updating the types. And when the GitHub action is opening the pull request, they are running a script on the frontend that is for generating the type in GraphQL step. So we have the types updated, and we never have to worry because for the problems of the previous stuff. So it was really, really nice. So here are some of the challenges that we face in this application. First of all, the file upload. We decided to just go with a post request because we have like tons of requests in there, but just one for upload a file in a very specific moment that it was not critical, so no need for optimization. So we just keep it as it is, no worries. And then and these other ones are more related with the team, but we have to take care of migrating things like safely and always bring value to the present. So we took care the time needed to do it, and that's very valuable. And also, the third challenge that we faced was updating and removing fields. So once we migrated like the whole application to GraphQL, we wanted to make change because we wanted to bring new features to the application. So as we have the types integrated and connected like live, every time that the backend remove a field on the backend, we get a PR updating this field. So probably like most of the frontend breaks with this PR, and that was not great because you are like chilling on a Monday with your computer and suddenly you see a PR that is broken everything, so not good. What we have done at the end, like the way that we solved it was always like tagging. When we start creating tickets for a feature, we try to see like the implication, like we are going to remove this field, so maybe instead of removing it, we can deprecate the field and remove it once the frontend has ended consuming it. Yeah, that's super easy and it works. And same for updating it. If at some point we need to be like on the same time, we have to, because it could be like you are renaming a field or you are changing the type of a field. We had to just sync the backend and the frontend and do together like merge together the two pull requests at the same time. it was a bit tricky, but at the end we optimized the process. But that was like 1 or 2 times only, so we always try to avoid this scenario because it's the most difficult one. Because neither of us were DevOps, so we can develop like complex flows for our testing this, so we just make it simple. And the third app that comes later, it was an app that, well, it's in fact like the landing page of Honeycomb, and it's a application that was made by an external company, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and now the team decided to give it like a bit of love. So we updated like all libraries because they were like updated for 5 years, something like that. So that was painful, but we made it. We also started introducing TypeScript. We are still introducing it because it has plenty of stuff, and we have to maintain the other application at the same time. And we also fetch the data with GraphQL. And we fetch it from the backend, the CMS, that was in Content Pool, and our data that was the new one that we are trying because it's not so expensive. So if you are considering, maybe there's an option. And it was great, but we faced some issues. For example, instead of using a GraphQL tools for auto-generating the types, we are using here the plugin that Gatsby provides us. It's fine, but Gatsby does sometimes some weird things with the types. So that's something that we are still learning from because neither of us have worked with Gatsby previously, so we are like just learning it. So what Gatsby does that making the special is they serve the pages as static, so you have to query all the data on the moment of the build. So you don't query like on the moment that the web page is running. And that's okay, but we never worked in this paradigm before. So it has some issues because sometimes we wanted to introduce pagination or filtering, and that implies doing some dynamic queries instead of static ones. And that's nice, but Gatsby changes the types depending if it's a static or a dynamic query. That is the point. We don't know now how to solve that in an efficient way because we end up with 2 types for the same entity. One that is that has data CMS or content pool append to the type, like content pool player, and another one that is just player. So it's not cool. And you have to end up writing it manually the type. So probably if someone here have worked with Gatsby more in deep, knows like a solution, I will be very excited to know it, but by now, even but we have, they're not telling that. So if you like GraphQL right now, you are probably like wondering, where did you start? So it's pretty easy. In fact, I like summing up in 5-6 points. So first of all, you just need to install the library GraphQL or the module in the backend that you are using. It's super easy. It could be like super documented. And then you need to create a false endpoint, something that looks most like this or whatever you feel like. And then you need to expose model. For example, if you want to expose something, maybe user would be like a pretty model, but something more easy, like the simplest model that you have, just post it, you create a query, and then you just have to give it a try on the front end and consume it. And it's so easy, but it's because it is. You can do it like pretty simple version of GraphQL, but then you have like the whole community with plenty of tools and libraries for just go ahead and have something, for example, the type generation or plenty of things, and it's up to you and up to you. So last slide is like my advice as a developers about how to migrate to GraphQL and how to migrate to every technology. So first of all, you have to know just like your team. If your team is loaded with work, probably it's not the best idea at this moment. And if your team is enthusiastic for learning new things, it's great, but if not, it could be not the time. So that's like the first step. Then you have to analyze the scope of what you want to migrate in order to be able to communicate it to your colleagues. So that's pretty obvious, but not every person does it. And then the most easiest but tedious, like the worst thing, create tickets. You need to create tickets because you need them to include them on the screen. If you don't create it, you can tell to everyone, oh yeah, we are going to migrate this technology, but nobody have like a real action to do. So yeah, that's super important. And later, sometimes it can feel like you are not doing progress because it's an API, so you have the same results that you have previously. So you have to sell it to your bosses, to your company, that you are making an impact. So just like use some monitoring tools, or for example, checking the improve on the speed of your requests, the performance, the people that are using them, the time that you need to develop a feature, or things like that. This is very important because in other case, probably your boss will tell you, oh, we will stop this project. But you don't want that. And here, I'm going to show you just an idea that we had in order to present it right, regularly to our bosses. It's a landing page, and it's like super silly, but you can see progress here. So initially, we have all the boxes as gray boxes because they were not migrated, but they were starting to become pink boxes with the time, and that was a landing page. And all the bosses can just go to the link and check it and see, oh, there's progress. Oh yeah, we are making something good, and just take like a screenshot and paste it in any slide that they have with more posters. So it's amazing. And it's super silly. So if you don't want to spend time with that, we have in Honeypot a public repository that is called Migration UI. I will share the link later, but you can just like copy paste it and put there everything you need. And yeah, you don't have to work. So it's nice. So oops. Yes. That's it. So, so I put there my LinkedIn. So you have more questions, like for example, tomorrow you can just write me. I will try to answer you. Thanks. Yeah.
Hi, Arancha. First of all, congratulations. Something very challenging that we've working on is the versioning strategy. I think maybe you guys have realized that having this API / GraphQL, you cannot play with versioning. I do know some versioning strategies. We've implemented some of them, but I'd like to know how you handle that.
So first of all, it's a very good question. I was thinking about that like yesterday, but we didn't face that problem because our API is private. So we just have to communicate our team. But of course, if you are exposing your API to the public, you have to deal with this kind of stuff. So I'm not very sure, but sometimes that some APIs that, for example, GitHub used to do is to deprecate spills. And it's very silly, but it's one of the ways that GraphQL used to recommend it. maybe there's other ideas out there.
Okay, that was a question. Yeah, actually, we are using the brigade decorator in our, but it was just because I remember some months ago I had to look at this, and then actually it's a really challenging, question, and there are a lot of people saying like a lot of solutions, so it just out of curiosity, to be honest.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, it depends if you are exposing a API publicly or internally. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the talk. I just want to ask about the security. You mentioned it's a bit tricky. Then how do you handle this? Because exposing a user of finance invention, and then you have some information you don't want to expose, but you're exposing everything. How you do that?
So first of all, I'm not a focused backend developer, so I could make some mistakes. But as far as I have worked with, us currently on Ruby on Rails, each model have its own policy. So you can define which people that is authenticated and have this kind of authorization, which person can access to which model. You can go ahead and define policies for each field, each attribute, but as we are not there yet, so it's under backend.
And you can have policies perhaps. Whereas in you can
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, also GraphQL lets you like put some comments or even maybe hide fields depending on this. So they have like this kind of capabilities. You can expose it, for example, on the graphical ID. So yeah, like there's options, but it's up to you as a backend to define them. Okay, I have seen a hand there. Yeah.
What do you think that this kind of thinking, like GraphQL, encourages developers to bring business logic from backend to front end? As everybody knows, business logic should be on the backend side. For example, if you stake some farm and this farm performs some actions, this could be managed by the backend side, not from that side. However, here in GraphQL, we have a better approach, like we have notations for database models, and we have queries in order to bring your data from backend. I miss something like actions.
Yeah. So, for example, imagine like a form that has several steps. So, for each step to be submitted successfully, you enable, we perform the mutation, just like updating these fields, but you as a front-end developer are not in charge of what the backend is doing with those fields. So the business logic is and it remains on the backend. So if you are just sending maybe your address and I don't know, another stuff, whatever the backend has to do with those data is just up to the backend. So if you want to bring it onto the front end, you can, but it also can happen in red. So if you want to process some data on the front end before sending it to the backend in REST, you can do it because in REST you have like the body of the request where you pass all the parameters that you want to send to the backend. So if the same on GraphQL, you have the mutation, and the mutation have the parameters, but instead of in a JSON format, it's in the GraphQL format. So you can keep all the business logic on the backend.
Obviously, you can, but the fact is that GraphQL encourage you to take something, did some model, but you do not do actions. Like, for example, I don't know, delete by user. It's an action, it's not a mutation.
But you are not querying the database directly. Like, this is not recommended. Like, as a developer in programming, like on the front end to just directly query the backend is not like a good practice. You have to go through the backend, through the resolvers, through all the stuff that you have on the backend, and the backend is the one that has to send the action to the database to delete this entry in a specific. So of course you can put this kind of logic on the front end to say delete this and just delete the record on the database, but if you need to also update another entries or whatever, and you don't do it, it's like, it's on you as a backend developer, because you still have code that in the resolver, or not the resolver, another name, that is backend stuff, and not so as today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the talk. And I know that you are more like a front-end position in the company, but I wanted to know if you have the experience about, do you think that GraphQL simplifies the backend solution at the end? Because with REST, if you have multiple endpoints, at the end it's a big chaos to manage in the time. So I don't know if this could simplifies it with just one endpoint and then all the business logic behind it. Does it really simplify the backend?
Yeah, so when we say simplified, it's simplified from a front-end point of view. So if you, for example, have two fields, like for example, the name of the user and the position you have to retrieve, for example, from LinkedIn, you have to send like maybe a query to LinkedIn to search for with his name, which user have this and which position have. So this is like managing like two services, one like what you store in your database, and another is what LinkedIn store in their database. And you don't want to perform these two requests on the front end. You want to just like tell the backend, okay, I need that, give it to me. Like, however you have to retrieve it, give it to me. And yeah, I can tell you that it worked because not with LinkedIn, but with other services, we already do it. Like, us as a company that has talents, we have, for example, the talent name, like you as a developer, but we have also like the GitHub contributions. And this is data that we fetch from GitHub actively. So yeah, the backend has some code put in place just to make the query, and it works.
Yeah, but I was referring more about maybe when you have REST, you have 1,000 endpoints, okay, just to maintain. As a backend developer, I'm talking about that. Of course, from frontend it's quite easier. It's just, okay, I have one post that is just messages that I have to send, the queries. So that's part of this here, but in the backend, that I don't know if you have the answer also, but that funnel that gets created that with just one endpoint, I think that the queries at the end are not tagged themselves, so they don't know you are asking it for a specific purpose. It's like the backend doesn't it's not important for the backend to know what the data is for. So I don't know if that can make the backend logic more complex at the end to know that, because when REST, you know what an endpoint is for. So that's quite straight on to develop the logic, but when maybe it's a part that it would have been great to have in the talk just to understand a bit of the background. But I don't know if you have some little description about how the backend gets the first query and knows where to go to filter some data.
Yeah, so what I know is what we do right now with Ruby on Rails. So probably another language is another framework will vary a bit. But at the end, for example, in Ruby, when we expose a model, all the things that we are exposing on the model are not always from the database. We have also some fields that are maybe a calculation of another field or something that we retrieve. So you on the model can, well, not the model, more like probably the serializer, something like that. You can define like or do you want to deal with that? So yeah, of course you can bring like this logic to the front end, but it's also sometimes a team decision. So, but you can do it. And of course, depending on the language and the framework, it will be easier or more complex. But for us, it's just like a method and operation, so pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Any more questions? Yeah.
A question. First of all, thank you for the talk. It was very interesting. And I have a question related to the performance. Like, for example, if you have a web page and you want it to be fast, quick to load, and for example, you request the name and the last name, for example, it told the backend it works so quick, but then let's say that you want to integrate another field that is relying in a third-party service, which is a bit slower. Is it possible to do a parallel request or something like this in order to kind of miss loading or something like this?
Yes, so one of the benefits of GraphQL is you can query like several stuff in the same request, but you can always like perform several requests. So if you want to repeat like one field from one model first in one request, paint it, and then maybe place a loader until the third party field is resolved, you can totally do it like 2 requests instead of 1.
Thank you, Dad. Really.
So maybe that's all. I can continue.